What's up, guys, and welcome back to No Color Entertainment. This is Ariane.
There was not enough energy, so we're going to do it over no matter what. What's up, guys, and welcome back to No Color Entertainment. This is Matt.
I'm Ariane.
And this is Juice.
And
we're back with Squeegee Side Chick Wednesday!
Squeegee Side Chick Wednesday!
Yeah.
This one's kind of a bummer, guys.
It's also the day after the election, so
that doesn't help either.
Arya's just stacked up with depression today.
I'm focused on one trauma at a time, and right now all of it is entirely focused on this movie.
Oh, okay.
And it's so much. There's so much. We'll stop.
I'll leave the trivia to you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into this. Squeegee Side Chick Wednesday is back. We are done with Spooky Scary for now until next year.
That's right. So
I think it was a successful Spooky Scary Side Chick Wednesday.
Definitely. We got to see a couple of classics. A few cult classics actually, and we saw one really, really good movie.
Yeah.
But now we're back to original flavor.
And what a way to get back to it!
Christ, and you call this a palate cleanser?
So
fuck, my palate is not cleansed. If anything, it feels more dirty.
All right, today what we are doing is the Michael Cimino written and directed drama, The Deer Hunter, which stars Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, John Cazale, John Savage, and Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
An in-depth examination of the ways in which the Vietnam War impacts and disrupts the lives of several friends in a small steel mill town in Pennsylvania is the blandest, most basic description of this movie.
Was it Sharknado because that was the good one? No.
I'm pretty sure Infested was the
Infested.
one. The one I picked.
Yep, go
figure. All right, so that's a very vanilla way to explain this movie. It has a 8.1 on IMDb. It does not say the Rotten Tomatoes. It did win 5 Oscars.
Yeah.
Best Picture.
Yeah.
So 1979 Best Picture?
Yeah.
Yes. Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Christopher Walken.
Yep.
Wow.
Best Director, Michael Cimino.
Wow, okay.
Best Sound.
Okay, yeah.
And Best Film Editing.
Is that 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
and it was nominated for Best Actor in De Niro. Best Actress in a Supporting Role, Meryl Streep.
Yep.
Best Writing with Screenplay written directly for the screen, so it was not based off a book.
I thought that's what looked up. Yeah. So that's original.
And Best Nominee for Best Cinematography.
Oh, who won that one? That was really good, actually.
I will find. Let me find out right now.
So you find out who actually won that. Whew. Okay. So I'll leave the trivia and stuff for my initial reactions. I think that's all of the description I have.
Okay.
Straight said, "Oh fuck yeah, y'all watch The Deer Hunter." Not exactly a lighthearted romp for the palate cleanser. The wheel thus decided.
All right. What awards?
79 Academy Awards for cinematography.
Best cinematography, yeah.
Okay, hold on. Best actor that year was Jon Voight for Coming Home.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Jon Voight's a fantastic actor, so.
Best cinematography was Days of Heaven.
What the hell is that? It sounds like an horror movie.
It's by Nestor Almendros. One sec. It is a romance drama.
Oh.
By Terrence Malick, starring Richard Gere.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. So initial reactions. Does anyone want to go first, or can I go first?
Go first, babe. If you're gonna do your initial reactions and your trivia, I gotta talk about mine.
Okay. So my initial reaction is I adore this movie. It was great, fantastic. There was a lot of nuance to it, which I'll go into detail on that on my good, bad, and ugly. the cinematography, I was just as shocked that I lost because there were shots in there that were just absolutely gorgeous. Robert De Niro running across the mountain peak at the beginning with the fog in the background, but you can still see the mountains. Like, oh, it was gorgeous. De Niro, Streep, Walken, John Cadazi? Cadazi?
Caviezel.
No.
Not Caviezel.
No. Sorry,
Casale.
Yeah.
All absolutely killed it. John Savage did a fantastic job. Overall, I just really like the performances in this movie. The authenticity they went with. I'm just going to bring up a couple things of trivia real quick. First of all, at the very beginning, they go deer hunting, and they actually legitimately shoot a deer for the movie. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with hunting deer, especially if the remains are used, as that's kind of the point. But that is still like a good little like wrap you into what you're in for early in the movie. Another one is that one of the more painstaking scenes, which again I'll go into further detail, My Good, Bad, Ugly, was 100% authentic to the point where the actors were getting slapped in the face during the scene, and the director and the actors insisted that they actually get slapped in the face during the scene.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to fire the original actor who was slapping them in the face.
Oh, wow.
Because he felt uncomfortable slapping Robert De Niro in the face. So they went to where they were filming Thailand, I think, or hired a Thai man who hated Americans, who actually had racism against or discrimination against Americans.
Right, so he had no problem doing it.
Hired him to beat the fuck out.
Y'all gonna pay me to do this shit?
Yeah. I absolutely love that bit of trivia. There's more to it, but I know Ari wants to have some, but those were my two favorites that I saw. The rest I'll talk about later if she doesn't hit it, but no, I really like this movie. I thought it was a great film, but not about what everyone told me it was about, which again, well, I'll bring that up real quick. I don't see this as a Vietnam movie. I see this as an allegory for friendships growing and maturing and sometimes splitting apart.
Okay.
Now, obviously, the Vietnam War is part of it, and I get that, and it's still that those threads are still there. But when you're younger, you have this larger group of friends usually, and as you grow, sometimes you outgrow your friends, or your friends outgrow you.
Yeah.
And this was like. This really showed that really well, because when Michael first comes home, he's at a different level of maturity and like borders and boundaries.
I don't even think it's maturity though.
I think it is, because before they left, he's waving the gun around in everyone's face, and everyone's kind of laughing it off like, you're so full of shit, you're never going to do anything, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's a joke to everybody. But then as soon as he goes through what he goes through, it's not a joke anymore.
No, it's not.
But they don't see that because they haven't been through that, and they haven't matured to that point.
But at the same time, when he comes back, he's avoiding them. Like, literally, the night that he comes back, he doesn't want to go straight home. Because he sees, obviously, that there's a party, but he's avoiding them for whatever personal reason that doesn't necessarily gets discussed about in the movie, and then he never talks about his feelings either. He just kind of blows it off, and he obviously has gone through a different change, but I don't necessarily see it as maturing.
It's not.
Yeah, I see it more so.
I did say an allegory too.
It's certainly obviously it's PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily maturity. If any kind of maturity, it's the fact that the people who he was like not knowing sort of thing, and now you know, like, so being on the other side of like this horrible trauma and the knowledge that comes from that trauma that other people who've never experienced it can't know, won't understand, and that's one reason why oftentimes people who go through PTSD, especially probably from war, but in general, like, feel separated from those people. They isolate themselves because they, like Stevie was saying, I don't fit. All three of them were experiencing that. The only difference is that
Nick stayed.
Not even just Nick stayed, but Michael's character, he makes it back even if he doesn't necessarily make it back entirely.
Yeah.
He makes it back the most. Physically as well as
he's
mentally.
the most intact. Yeah.
Yeah. And with regards to your comment about like not being a Vietnam War versus about friendship, it's definitely a Vietnam War movie. This is, and let me finish my point when I say that. When I say that, the idea is not just like in the 70s and then also in the 80s, like Platoon and other movies like that. America had this reckoning, like, that we don't really quite understand because we weren't around.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, and this might be a nuanced and reductionist version of what actually experienced, it was very obviously a traumatic and negative experience in all. Like why were we there? Like all this loss, all this cost, all this mess. Like people coming back and being shat on or spat on about being being veterans and stuff like that. All the horrors that we heard about. The fucking like congressional hearings, etc., etc. Like we lost.
Yeah.
We fucking lost, and it was also kind of like, what? How can we lose? I was like this reckoning of like, but how can we lose? Like we were going there for a good reason, right? And the whole time, they're like people who are on it, like the
USA doesn't lose.
The friends were all like really super proud. They're going into the military and they're gonna fight for our rights and kill a few for me while you're over there, and like literally line that came from the movie. And then of course at the end that we still gotta tie that together because I guess we have to. God Bless America. But a lot of movies at this time are also trying to give this like reflection of shit was fucked up over there, and no one's really giving us good reason as to why. We lost a lot of good people, and the people who came back aren't really okay either. Because when they went over there, they had to do a lot of shit that really what they fucking were doing over there in the first place.
Yes.
And so, like, when I say if it's any allegory to friendship, it's not necessarily an allegory to friendship or maturing. It's the idea that before Vietnam, we had this image of America that was happy and fun and white and like very like like, oh, everything's fine. We're being obnoxious. We're friends. We're not a care in the world. And then we go into war, going in with this original idea of, hey, like we're doing something good. We're doing something important, and like we're gonna be okay. And then the problem is there's a split. People who stayed versus people who went and came back. And so after that, like now we have this image of America that's not true.
Yeah.
But you can't really understand it if you weren't there, or at the very least, it's harder for some people to understand it because they weren't there.
Exactly.
And so that's why I think it's still a Vietnam War, but it might be the allegory for America's change as a result of the war.
So, I guess what I meant was it's still a Vietnam movie. On the surface, it is a Vietnam War movie. There's a subtext there.
Well, usually they're going to be, of course.
Well, yeah. And I guess what I'm saying is the subtext hit me harder than the Vietnam message. So that's all I was saying on that, but I want to get to your impressions.
Sure.
Okay.
I would say, mine probably won't be as long as yours. Okay. So that's why I just want to get mine out of the way.
That's cool.
I enjoyed this movie. This movie is a lot. It's it feels a little disjointed, and I say it in regards to where there's a little bit of confusion with some jumping, some character relationship things. So we're asking questions as the movie's going on. That obviously it's not gonna spoon feed us either, but it would be nice if it made a couple things a little bit more clearer.
Like what?
Let's see what. Let's see if I can remember that.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain time period, 70s, 80s movies, where they don't give you everything. And nowadays, movies are so dumbed down
that
a lot of movies just kind of give you everything.
Yeah,
they give you all the details, everything.
You go through it.
They were leaning heavily into subtext.
Yeah, and back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like
70s
subtext was a big thing.
Well, and remember, the movies that came out around the 70s, your Godfather, French Connection. This one is a lot more gritty. It's a lot more realistic, but it's also like a lot more subtext. They're not going to go this large, overwhelming, Hollywood style of storytelling they had in the 60s and 50s.
Was Raging Bull was another one?
Yes. Well, it's in that. Yeah, I guess it was like late 70s. Yeah.
And it's all done through scenery and dialogue and subtext, and it's nothing spoon-fed to you.
Right, and part of it I appreciate, and the other part of it is it does leave us asking a fair amount of questions. What? Well, no. Yeah, maybe why did Stan punch his girl?
Because he's a prick.
Well, I think that was again the immaturity. They're invincible young kids. I know they're grown men, but
they're young.
But when you're under 25. You're still a kid.
Yeah, you're still a kid.
You're still invincible. Nothing can bother you. Nothing can hurt you. And when you're in a small town like that, you, as young white males, you run the town.
Yeah.
You can pretty much get away with anything.
Well, I'm not sure that's the lesson that they were trying to get.
No, that's not the lesson. But
no, it's not a lesson.
I'm saying the narrative they're trying to put forth that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, these characters make sense to me because of that. I mean, that's what I'm seeing, and it's this makes sense to me because I've seen it.
Okay.
It's the jocks, the preps in high school
they can
break the law.
They're the steel mill workers.
Yeah, they keep the town running.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they can get away with more.
Right, exactly.
It's the jocks in high school. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing there, and they can get away with stuff like that. And that's really all it is for me. Is when he comes up and punches the girl, it's just oh, you just see that as acceptable because you see her as disrespected you.
Right.
But it's not even acceptable to his friends because they're pulling him off of him.
Right. And they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
No, yeah.
And now that I think about it, as far as the subtext goes, I loop back now to the Green Beret at the wedding.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it until right now. Now that we're talking about the wedding scene,
So we're gonna talk about that.
Right, we're gonna talk about it, but that again.
Do you want to talk about it now?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but just talking about that now made me loop around to it, which gives me another appreciation for this film.
Mm-hmm. The Green Beret, by the way, is my grade.
Okay.
So if no one wants to just dive into it too deep, I'm gonna dive into it on my grade.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
No, but this movie does a really good job at with the characters. I think the writing is great. That's my good, but no. I enjoyed it. I think 3 hours is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that there's some stuff that they probably could have cut, but I love that each hour had the 3-story. It was the 3-story act.
Yeah. Yes. Paced.
Every hour, every act was paced very well.
Yes.
To where it didn't slog too much.
Yeah.
But 3 hours for a film like this can be a little taxing.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna end it with that. Ari, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe yours was just a rebuttal to mine. So if you
not entirely a rebuttal, it was just so I'm trying to see something. Okay, so yeah, that actually is kind of part of it for me, but I'll talk about that as part of my good at some point. So I have a few things I want to talk about as far as my impressions, and some of it is trivia. My impressions of this film, no, it is a very well done film. I think that there are some, and I am reading and okay, yeah, that kind of tracks with what I was taking it as, and I'm glad someone else saw it, but it didn't wasn't overarching glaring to me. As regards to the very almost not nuanced. What's the opposite of nuanced?
Cliche.
Yeah, I guess cliche or stereotypical. Yeah, portrayal of the Vietnamese characters, but that's gonna be my bad. I'll talk about that later. But so it's rough. It's very well done. I'll say, for example, like when it opens up, it's showing like these people were working in a very dangerous job because that's what is expected of them. Mm-hmm. It is part of a testament to being a male in that area because that's the only way you can make money. But also like obviously like that's very much part of the culture too. This is one way in which you express your manhood. So that is absolutely part of, I think, the story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah.
With regards to what it means to be a man, sort of thing. And so, like, you have these very toxic, very, like, weak, I don't know how to describe it, like, not very good examples of masculinity with regards to the majority of the friends who are still staying home. And I think that's kind of like maybe also a little bit of the backstory they're trying to get at as far as like who goes to war versus who doesn't sort of thing. Like I don't know if that was an indictment against not choosing to not serve or where they're going with that. I'll have to think about that a little bit more before I really have a good observation, but I see that. And we have the conversation. Let me finish before you say it.
No, yeah.
Let me finish before you jump in. So, and I want to use the examples of, obviously, like, for John Gonzalez's character, Stan, who is so incensed that his girl is dancing with somebody else and getting felt upon that he goes and punches her. Despite all his, protestations, I'm going to go get my gun and I'm going to shoot him or whatever. I'm going to go kick his ass. And instead takes it all out on her. He's waving a gun around because he keeps it with him, and they're always asking him, why do you have it around with him? It's basically because it makes him feel like he's a man.
Yeah.
And, of course, he would never do anything with it, but he's dumb enough to have it loaded, like, in the first place, and then pointing it at his friends and never thinking for a second anyone having any concern about the danger that they're putting themselves in by constantly being around this person and allowing him to continue acting the way he does. While at the same time, the other friends are kind of like this kind of hangers-on and, encouraging each other or whatever, like, in their obnoxious antics, but they are following the lead of the two main characters in the story, which is basically Nick and Michael, right? Nick and Michael kind of are more or less the representations of what we would probably think in terms of, like, positive male figures, hopefully, in media, and with Michael being the main one, he's the one who makes it back. And maybe that's the reason why he makes it back is because he has this better commune with nature. He is more even keel. He has a better temperament. He understands the situations better because he's a deer hunter. He talks about it in the beginning of the movie as to why he goes hunting with Nick, but he won't go hunting with the other guys because that's part of it is really important for him. They're assholes. He understands that. What he said. But he is also kind of almost paternal figure with them. Yeah. And so that's why like he still hangs out with them almost to a certain extent. So that's my impressions. That's a start. So you gotta rebuttal because I have more.
Well, okay. So real quick, I actually see it flipped.
Okay.
I see the stereotypical like man's man, the one what society should strive for as being Nick.
Okay.
He's the one who chooses a girl and stays with that girl. He's the one who is honorable and
Nick or Steve?
Nick.
Okay.
He's the one who's kind of like the even keel because Michael has the jealousy issues and he has some anger issues in the Green Beret scene.
Not only that, but according to Stan, like he could have any girl he wants, but just chooses not.
No, I'm guessing that's because he's in love with Linda and he doesn't want to do anything with anyone else.
And so he actually has a lot of flaws. He has kind of the macho man thing.
Oh, I'm not saying he's perfect.
Whereas I saw Nick as kind of the perfect one.
Well, and then something else, their roles get flipped, and part of that's because it's this notion that after they get separated. That's the issue. It's when they get separated that everything goes like even when they're in like this horrible torture scene or whatever, everything goes really wrong once they get separated. When they're together, they're still good. They're still okay. They're still alive, and they're able to fight their way out. But it's when they're separated that everything goes wrong. And the idea is at the same time you have I think it was Nick who was begging Steve. No, or was it Michael who begged Nick to make sure that he didn't leave without him?
No, Nick made Michael promise not to leave without him.
But then he did.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
Because and that's how their fault, obviously, right? Because like Nick is the one who gets evacuated first, and Michael can't go with them. So when he finally does find him, they end up getting separated again. Which of course they find themselves in the same voluntarily in the same environment of their most recent and most profound trauma of being in this Russian roulette game. They sought it out almost.
And on top of that,
at the same time,
Nick left Michael.
Yeah.
At that moment.
No, he didn't leave.
He didn't mean to. That's when he was separated,
and he didn't see Michael. He didn't see Michael in the room.
Right.
Michael saw Nick, and he went chasing.
Right.
And he went chasing after him.
But Michael did not stay to bring him home.
Yeah.
He left, and that's something that's never finished for him until he goes back to finally get Nick.
And that's
at which
why
point it's basically kind of too late.
when he first gets back, he feels far away. Because he's not here because he has unfinished business.
No, and that's oftentimes what's kind of the nature of survival's remorse, as well as like just in general your PTSD that you get from being in a combat zone. But on top of that, he has a friend that he promised he wasn't going to leave, and he left him.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't know what to do. And so now he's like living with his girl, where he's going to get everything he wants. So like, just stay quiet. You have the girl that you want. And he's not going to come home probably, right? But the problem is that they're both grieving his loss. They both want him home. They both love him. And so he can't who does he love more, Linda or Nick? It has to be Nick. Because if he did, he would have never, he never makes a move on Linda.
No.
He never tries. He never lets her know how he feels. And even when he comes home, she's still initiating really everything.
Yeah.
Because he feels guilty.
Yeah.
It's still his friend's girl.
No, and this is why Robert De Niro is still a very sympathetic character. I'm not trying to make him out as the antagonist or anything.
No!
I just think Nick is the
prototypical,
the picturesque stereotype. But no, Michael's character is full of awesome subtext and depth.
Well,
and
we also see him more. He's on screen the most.
Well, yeah, but they do a really good job with his character. But continue.
No, yeah, I was gonna say I imagine within this group that actually Nick is probably more the leader.
Yeah.
That because you have a more shy person with regards to Nick's character. He's kind of like this quiet, stoic one of the group that everyone respects. Everyone knows he can kick ass if he wants to. But
you mean Michael?
That's what I mean, Michael. Sorry.
Yeah.
But Nick is the one who is kind of like the cool one, basically.
The leader.
He's the Fonzie, right?
Yeah.
Everyone follows his lead, and Nick, in fact, Michael, in fact, to a large extent, follows his lead as well. If I had to guess, Stevie is the one who actually decided to enlist, and the other two join up with him.
And he has that beautiful line at the beginning. Without you, I'd probably hunt alone.
Yeah.
I love that line.
No, yeah.
Because it kind of shows later on in the movie when Michael's thrust into that leader position because obviously he's the right hand man.
Yeah.
So when Nick's not there, he's kind of left to it, and they all kind of look to him.
Yeah.
And it all falls apart because he's not that guy. He's not the guy to hold everything together.
He was. He wasn't there
without Nick.
Got them alive. Got them out.
Yeah, he is, but that's not where he's comfortable.
No.
He would rather be alone than be in charge.
Yeah.
And God, I feel that. But to a point. But anyway, this isn't a psychoanalyst of me. Do you have more?
Oh, I have lots more. I'm going to finish up real quick with the
okay,
things
because we need to get in good, bad numbers.
Oh, I know. So this is the last thing I'll talk about because I really wanted to throw it out to trivia. Number one. I don't even know what to go in order. Which one? Like, just the more and more I kept reading, the worse it got. So I'm just going to start with the least worst, I guess. Angela's baby daddy.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah. Was that confirmed?
It was revealed by Michael Cimino in an interview in 2005 that the father was Nick.
Nick was the father.
And which is interesting, too, because I remember watching this. Obviously, I think Stan is supposed to be the one that everyone thinks is the father.
Hold on. BRB, we'll be right back. Just taking care of Tully real quick. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy post-election.
Yeah. Oh, boy. That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, that definitely is. I mean...
Okay, so...
Yeah, we'll have that conversation later.
All right. Confirmed in an interview that Nick is the father.
Wow.
And one of the things that I thought about when I was watching, because I think Stan's supposed to be... You're supposed to think that it's Stan, because he's helping her out at the funeral and everything, which also kind of makes sense if he knows something's up with Angela in the first place, so maybe he actually knows that Nick is the father, so he also understands that she might need more assistance in terms of her grief because of the fact that she has a child with him. Yeah. But also looking at the two of them, they're both dark-haired, and the baby is blonde. Aryan blonde. Yeah. Now, granted,
and I didn't catch it right away.
From the mouth
I saw that the baby was blonde,
but Stevie is blondish.
Yes, blondish.
So it's very still possible that it could be his, but there's no
pregnant. It was implied that she was pregnant before the wedding.
Yes.
That's the thing. It was implied that she was pregnant because she even checked herself in the mirror. She's like,
no, that's exactly what you're supposed to think that
exactly.
She's pregnant.
So the text was there.
No, yeah, and so that was the first one. That was the last thing that I read. Actually, that made me go, God damn it, that makes me feel so much worse. Nick, why are you fucking your friend's girl? And two, I was wondering what happened to John Cazale after this film. This is literally his last film. He died.
Yes, he was battling cancer.
Yes.
During the filming.
Lung cancer, yes.
And they were actually, the studio wanted to pull him from the movie.
Yeah.
And...
Oh, hey, watching, hey.
Madame...
Streep?
Meryl Streep, the goddess Meryl Streep, said, if he goes, I'm fucking God.
Which is crazy, because she's only had like one movie before this movie.
Yeah, but... I think they knew what they had with Meryl Streep, and they were like, all right, fine.
Okay, so that was the second thing that was awful that I read about this fucking film. The third one, which is actually going to probably factor into my estimation of this film, is the animals. So, bear with me here. I know that you brought it up as kind of a good for you or something that's going to show up for you later on when you're talking about it, but I'm just going to just talk about something real quick.
I said it didn't bother me. I don't know if it's a good.
No, that's fair. So I had looked up I asked Google, when did we stop harming animals in movies? Because 79 seems kind of late for us to be still doing this. Mm-hmm. But I know that I'm not seeing it nearly as much in some of the 80s and so forth.
Welcome everyone to the stream. Jump in on the conversation.
So I went ahead and looked it up.
We were discussing The Deer Hunter, 1978 film.
And what had happened was, I'm going to do this as briefly as I can. So there's this thing called the Hays Code. Basically, it was introduced in the 30s to set up rules to clean up or censor, basically, Hollywood, and make sure that they weren't saying the wrong thing, putting the wrong stuff in there, blah, blah, blah. But it also included a framework for directors in calling for the humane treatment of the animals, with the American Humane Society kind of overlooking it. The Hays Code, I think, was more or less something that was coming from the government, and so it was more heavily or more consistently enforced until like the mid-60s when whatever government intervention on it lapsed or was revoked or whatever, and so the Humane Society wasn't around at all, and so they just didn't care anymore. So that's where you get films in 1978 that are shooting actual fucking deer for their film. The issue is that what is it? So without the authority behind it, the presence of the disclaimer of no animals were harmed, blah, 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 we've already seen in a lot of movies, we had little power. But that would change drastically with the animal abuse associated with the 1980 film Heaven's Gate.
Which was his next movie.
And the reason why this man has never worked in Hollywood again.
Okay, then.
Because of all of the fucking shit they did. Lots of shit that they did to fucking animals.
So from what I understand, I saw it in a review of this movie that this movie had like just enough trauma, and then Heaven's Gate had the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it went way too overboard and just it kind of screwed up the whole idea.
Yep, the horrible treatment, probably the American Humane Society or whatever, is actually pushing for a boycott of the film after releasing explicit details of the animal cruelty in the international press release.
Wow.
The controversy surrounding Heaven's Gate finally gave the American Society its authority back. The Screen Actors Guild, Alliance of Motion Pictures, Television Producers, contractually authorizing the animal rights group oversight of animals in film media, domestic and internationally. Unfortunately, it doesn't really have. It still means something, but it's not as ironclad as we like to think.
So I think it's safe to say that we will not be watching Heaven's Gate on our wheel.
Hell no. And the. I'll get into my feelings with regards to those decisions that, while at a different film, are more or less telling of the director's philosophy itself, into my estimation of good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so let's get into the good. Juicy, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Again, I think this film is very well written. I think the pacing is kind of. Again, the pacing doesn't.
Is it really an award-winning film without animal cruelty? Goddamn, it's strange.
Pepsi, please.
I think it doesn't slog as much. It doesn't drag as much, but I do feel they probably could have cut some things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is that good, or is that what's the
No, the pacing.
Oh, okay.
The pacing. I think the pacing is a good, but it could be trimmed down just a bit.
Okay.
You could definitely trim down some.
So
of the
almost perfect.
Almost perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
The performances are fantastic. I give everybody kudos because everyone was fucking phenomenal. Cinematography, those things are great. So one thing I do want to talk about that I was looking up because everybody's looking stuff up and I feel left out is the symbolism of the Russian roulette game. So
hit me with it.
On Wikipedia, under critics' response, Roger Ebert, because okay, hang on. So there was controversy over the use of Russian roulette in this film because according to Peter Arnett, who won a Pulitzer for his coverage of the war. In its 20 years of war, there was not a single recorded case of Russian roulette. The central metaphor of the movie is simply a bloody lie. Cimino countered that his film was not political, polemical, literally accurate, or posturing for any particular point of view. And he had confirmed from news clippings in Singapore that Russian roulette was used in the war. However, Roger Ebert defended the licensing of Russian roulette, saying it is the organizing symbol of the film. Anything you can believe about the game, about its deliberately random violence, about how it touches the sanity of men forced to play it, will apply to the war as a whole. It is a brilliant symbol because in the context of this story, it makes any ideological statement about the war superfluous.
I like it.
Okay.
And I think it makes a really great point. It's a really good vehicle that's used to represent the relationships of these men before, during, and after. Because like how we talked about at the beginning, they're young, they're high strung, they're full of cum. They feel like they feel untouchable, and then during the war they see all these horrible things that are going on. They are subjected as prisoners of war to basically play this deadly game where their lives are at risk, only to fortunately by careful circumstance, Michael was able to play it out and find a way to get out of this situation, only to then be kind of drawn again into this life, or at least for Nick, and then to come back different. And then use it against his friends because he's seen what that lifestyle has done, and you got Stan over here carrying a gun because it makes him feel like a man, playing around when there's more to this life than playing games like that. I guess is what I'm trying to get at. The symbol, he literally takes the bullets out. He does a Russian roulette on them, and saying, "You want to fuck around? You want to fuck around and find out?" you really want to see what this is about? So I really appreciated that. Had I not read that, I wouldn't have got it. But it's very well done. I know there's probably more, but I think I'll let you guys get into it because you guys have already done more trivia than I did. Actually, let's see. According to Christopher Walken, the historical context was not paramount in the making of it. I don't remember anyone ever mentioning Vietnam. De Niro added to the statement, whether the film's vision of war actually happened or not, it's something you could imagine very easily happening. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. All spread love and war. So, it happened. Regardless of whether they were there, it happened. People experienced it, and they came back completely different. And I think this movie does a very good job of symbolizing the transition pre-war to post-war.
Yeah.
So, Matthew, if you'd like to go ahead, or Ari, if you'd like to go ahead.
I'm trying to double you.
Right, so, my good, the acting was phenomenal. The writing's fantastic. The pacing, I thought it was phenomenal. This is a 3-hour and 3-minute film.
Yeah.
The opening credits are 3 minutes.
Okay, so but there's still then there's end credits too, which I'm guessing
yes,
is probably another 4 minutes.
In general, you could say the first hour of this movie is pre-Vietnam.
Yeah.
The second hour of this movie is
Vietnam.
During Vietnam, and the third hour is post-Vietnam.
And that's what I talked about during my initial impressions. I loved, and I think that's another part of my good is the way they broke the structure and fleshed it out within an hour for each. Each third of the film.
And that's us speaking to the pacing in and of itself, that you can time it that way.
Yeah.
The cinematography. There were so many shots in this movie where I'm just like, that is some of the most beautiful stuff I've seen. Some of the special effects are a little dated, but everything pretty much holds up. But a lot of it was also authentic. Like, I'm reading all this trivia, and when Steven is complaining to Michael about rats in the river, apparently that is John Savage, who's actually afraid of rats, talking to Robert De Niro after they cut a scene, and saying, "There's rats in here, I need to get out." But they thought it looked so real that they just decided to keep it in.
Yeah, that
was the actors just talking to each other. Which kind of tells you how physically taxing it was, because they were not acting at that point.
Yeah.
Apparently John Savage and Robert De Niro almost got killed getting pulled out of the water by the rope bridge after they escaped. The real slapping in that scene at the end when Christopher Walken spits in De Niro's face, they Alan Rickmaned him. They did not tell him it was coming, and he told Walken to just spit in his face. So that reaction is 100% real. Like there's so much authenticity, like just fuck it, do it, in this movie, which I really appreciate in movies. So I'm good with it. But I'm gonna go with their choice to be super authentic is my good there. I'll leave it that in general there. Go ahead.
My good is the acting. It is cinematography. I remember one of the things that struck me when they were doing like the intro. I started talking about this earlier in my impressions. I forgot to get around to it. Was they're obviously working in a steel mill. It's an incredibly dangerous job. They're doing it for a living. They don't really think anything of it, and it's interesting too, because if you're going to try and make a parallel between those two things, between working a dangerous job for a living every day versus going to war, then the idea is that like you would probably see some actual consequences from that, but you never do. But so I don't know if that's what they're going with, but for my experience, like I remember sitting in the parking lot at the steel mill where my dad worked, waiting for him to come out during, because we only had one car. So my mom wanted to go pick him up. We usually were with her, or often were with her depending on whatever shift he was working, and watching him walk out like with a bunch of other people from the mills who were all getting off at the same time on the long ass walk to their cars from wherever they last were at. I actually have no idea what he did while he was in there. I've never known what his actual job is when he worked at the mills. And so that kind of like they did a pretty good job of kind of showing the working class immigrant, second generation, first generation, whatever environment in which they lived at that time, and that part felt very real and authentic. I'm gonna kind of stop there because I there are some elements of authenticity that I appreciate with this film that I want to give it credit for, but I'm starting to feel less and less okay with it, and I'll talk about that more later.
Okay. So before we go into bad, I want to go over some of Strange's comments that we've kind of glossed over.
Yes, please.
So first he said, good new Paddington 3 is coming out soon. So the sequel to the best movie ever is coming. He also said, as a now 30-year-old, my body hurts all the time. So yeah, under 25, you're a kid. Strange, Matt, I saw Nick as the perfect one. Me, sigh, story of my career. Strange then said, is it really an award-winning film without animal cruelty? I think you said that.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
And then his last comment, every time y'all say Nick, I just picture Walken's head on Nick Diamond's body. Okay. So, into bad. I'm going to go first on this one because I don't really have anything.
Okay.
I do have a few ugly.
Yeah, you do.
But I really don't have anything bad.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Oh, you said you don't have any bad? I'll go with my bad then.
Okay.
All right. One of them is really kind of trite, but it's weird. It's super weird. So I'm unsure what time frame this movie is taking place. Not because I don't know, because it actually says somewhere I'm sure it says in the movie somewhere, but it says in one of the reviews of the movie or something like that, it takes place in 1968.
Yeah.
At least that's where it starts, and then of course Falls Like God in 1975. What I thought was weird though was like they're playing background music, which they don't use a lot of. The orchestral music they kind of reserve for a couple types of scenes. One was when they're out in the woods and De Niro is out there hunting or whatever. But they use more popular music like when they're in public places and everything like that. And I'm like, one of them was kind of weird was Tattletale Eyes when he's looking over at what's her face, sung by was it?
Did that come out in 78 or something?
It came out in 76,
okay.
which is it's well after with the time frame this movie should be taking place because it basically ends after, like right after the Fall of Saigon, so 75. So it's just choices like that were fucking weird that I didn't understand. But then also, I understand authenticity, but at some point it's crossing a line.
Okay.
And while at the same time, still not 100% sure on the Russian roulette being something that actually happened while in Vietnam, because he's saying this is part of his experience. Like there's people talked about it being a partially autobiographical film. Like there's some inconsistencies with his story, basically. And so how much of that is actually authentic? The idea that I have more ugly than I do have bad. I'm trying to think of anything else, but like the inconsistency with the music was one for sure. I know there's other bad, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, so I'm just gonna let that go. I have way more ugly. So, to you, Juice.
Twinkie and mustard.
There you go.
Oh, God damn it. Jesus Christ, Juice. You couldn't let that go.
Twinkie and mustard. That's a bad. I don't give a shit. That is a bad.
Do you want to explain what the fuck you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. So, it's during, I believe it. Would that be the beginning? Not the beginning.
It was the beginning.
It's the end of the first act.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the first act, we find they go hunting because they stated that after the wedding they're gonna go hunting for the weekend before they get shipped off to war. So they go to the mountains and everyone's changing minus Michael because he's
20 watching. Holy shit! Hey, welcome everybody. Join in the conversation. We're talking about The Deer Hunter, 1978. Continue.
So Michael's already changed. Everybody else is still in tuxes, and everybody's getting changed. And during
like, subscribe, share, and subscribe. By the way.
During the scene, they pull out bread, luncheon meat.
Yeah.
Stuff to make sandwiches. And I believe it's Axel, who's one of the bigger guys.
Fucking A.
Yeah. Axel asks for a Twinkie. So I believe it's John, who's the bar owner.
Yeah.
So John gives him a Twinkie, and Axel dunks it in mustard. They have a 20-ounce jar of mustard for their sandwiches, and Axel just dunks his Twinkie in the mustard, and then he has the audacity to double dunk after the fact. So now the cream filling gets mustard. I'm sorry.
Not Ari pointing at you like that part.
I was offended. You don't do that to Twinkies. Out of anything bad I could find in this movie, that was the only thing, because there wasn't really any other real bad.
All right.
I am gonna add one additional bad, and that is while the pacing wasn't necessarily the issue for the most part, for me it was in the beginning.
Okay.
To a certain extent, the first part, I would say it dragged. I know they're trying to do this world building sort of thing, kind of establish who these characters are. Yeah. And they do a very good job of doing that. But there is absolutely parts that they probably could have cut down or trimmed down or slammed.
Especially during the wedding scene.
Including the wedding scene, but actually during the hunting scene. That's what when they're getting ready. Like the scene where they're sitting there and they're joking around and they start to leave the guy, whatever, on the side of the road, and they go up the site and he's running after them and he stops and they pull it back. And that whole scene is done as one long take from a far away camera, which is fine. But the issue is they drive a minute within frame, and then they have to reverse back to come get him, which takes up time.
Only to drive away again.
Right? And then to come back.
Yeah, they could have.
Y'all could have skipped all of that, or you could have go as far or whatever. That was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. There's parts at the beginning where we're trying they're all getting ready. The girls keep dropping boxes and shit. I understand you're trying to establish that we're all getting ready for this wedding. I mean, everyone except the fucking groom. Everybody else is getting ready for this wedding except for him. And his asshole friends, basically. They're all just we just see them chilling in a bar for about, I don't know what the time frame is, but an inordinate amount of time at the beginning of this movie. So I feel like they could have slimmed quite a bit off. I think part of the reason they did that was because he was trying to go for this 1 hour here, 1 hour here, 1 hour here.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to stretch some things. Now that said, the third act is actually more like an hour and 10, hour 15. So it's not even equivalent, the whole way through.
I think the second act is probably the shortest.
It very well is. It feels like the longest.
The second act?
To me, it is.
Because there's so much shit going on.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like it was
I didn't feel. I'm not saying it. Well. It felt like it wasn't like a drug.
She's saying because of what you have to watch in the second act.
Yes, because you look at the door that part.
It feels like a little more draggy.
Yeah, okay. Not even draggy. It's just a lot.
It's rough. It's rough.
Yeah. No, it is rough.
It's a rough go.
But from my perspective, the first act was definitely dragged.
It did.
It definitely dragged because we have to establish the world and the characters.
Well, and I will say, when I say that the second part felt like the longest, the first part felt like it dragged. Yeah. I want to be able to make that clear.
No, that's what I'm getting,
Yeah.
Okay, so I see that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that,
Did you have something you want to say maybe before we get to our uglies? Because we got a lot of uglies.
Nope, it'll be revealed later. So let's get to our ugly.
Alright.
I'll start with the ugly.
Okay.
There's some homophobic language at the beginning as boys...
Will be boys.
Boys will be boys kind of language in the 1970s, so you have to be ready for that.
Well, it would be the It would be the 1960s.
Yeah.
Because the film
1960s,
the film takes place in the 60s.
But still, this culture that was, the problematic culture that was back then, that we are actively trying to change now, that is prevalent. It's there, and it's the good guys or the protagonists doing it, so you kind of have to deal with that. So just be prepared. It's super stereotypical in Vietnam. That's where I'm going to leave it. I know there's more, but I know you have it ready. So
my ugly is a lot to do with the director.
Okay.
So the decisions made at a certain point, I understand as a director you want to get authenticity, But he also seems to have no problem not only traumatizing his audience, obviously, but traumatizing his actors. And I understand, like, to a certain extent, you're like, well, this movie, like, the Vietnam War was in itself a trauma that America endured and also enforced, like foisted upon the world, basically. But this is still supposed to be a film. It's not. Well, I'm not saying it's going to be it's going to be autobiographical, documentarian, or whatever. The idea is that it's still a staged production.
Yeah.
So when you are taking liberties to go out of your way to make it as not staged as possible, that's fine. Sometimes I think that it's important and healthy in making a film or act or whatever, but there is also this idea that people who are working for you are trusting you to have their best sense of mind or whatever involved. And I don't think that was what was happening. I think it's even more obvious that this man does not really give a shit about
the people that work.
The people, not even the people, but the idea of, like, you're gonna sit through this abuse. You're gonna sit through this horrible shit. Like, you have to sit through it. And, like, that is Heaven's Gate.
Is it really an award-winning film without problematic language?
Damn, that's strange.
Yes, it can be.
I love Strange.
It has happened.
But his the decision to include certain things within this film is indicative of his kind of almost verging on.
This is my story. I'm going to tell it the way I want to tell it.
Very much that, and I understand.
That,
I get that, but I also very much understand why he never gets another fucking film after Heaven's Gate. It wasn't even just so much that, like, it was boycotted because it fucking was boycotted. That absolutely had an effect on their budget at the end, or their gross taken. Then it bankrupted the studio that put it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
The United Artists was bankrupt as a result. And so, like,
damn.
Yeah, no, fuck you, dude.
Well, and that's where boundaries are important.
Well, and I feel like this is a person who may have a difficult time understanding that.
Yeah.
And is
I made Deer Hunter, so give me $50 million more.
And is perfectly happy to tell a story about characters who seem to struggle with boundaries.
Yeah.
And are within a position of power, or at least, like, of positivity, because they are the protagonist or the protagonist's friends.
No, that's a legit ugly. That's a super legit ugly.
So, no, that's my biggest thing. I will say one quick quote with regards to Michael Cimino and his making of this film. And someone wrote that it seems like Michael Cimino must have sold his soul to the devil to get Deer Hunter, and in Heaven's Gate is evidence that the devil came back to collect.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that's the title of the film.
Well, the way I see it is the Deer Hunter was his first, okay, here's the reins. Mm-hmm. Let's see what you can do. And he put out a classic. And then the next step of that ego, well, shit, I can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Because his next movie that was going to be after Heaven's Gate sounds super fucking interesting. He was going to do a movie based on the Sioux Indians, Native Americans, and the way they were treated and cast out of their land. And it was going to be shot all in authentic Sioux language at authentic Sioux territory.
So he was going to do Apocalypto, but for the Native Americans.
Yeah, and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
But he got so
power hungry,
egotistical after Deer Hunter that he never got to get there.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you told me the story about how, like, he was supposed to do Footloose, and they told him, okay, don't go a dime over budget. And a week later, he asked for $250,000 for rewrites.
Yeah.
And they fired him on the spot. Like,
yeah.
No, dude, I don't want to know what you were planning on making.
I think he had some control problems.
Yes.
I think he is Michael.
I don't know about that.
No,
Michael has some control problems.
Yeah, so does everyone in that fucking film.
Yeah.
So, but
motherfucker made one good movie and was like, I'm a genius. The story of 90% of independent wrestlers.
Well, okay, so that being said, I will liken it to Peter Jackson.
Ooh, we're going after Peter.
Because I don't know all of his...
He made 3 great movies.
And then he made fucking King Kong.
That's fair. That's pretty.
Was
bad.
that after the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it was bad.
It was fucking awful.
Right.
We sat here for 3 hours. 3 hours! And roasted that movie the whole fucking time.
I don't think Peter Jackson can make a movie under 3 hours.
I will never sit that piece of shit again.
Good.
Well, you couldn't pay me enough money. I would veto it instantly. I would not want another
Well, you would
idea.
watch Lord of the Rings.
I watched Lord of the Rings. Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Not the Hobbit.
Oh, you're ugly, Juice.
The misogyny.
Yes.
The treatment towards women when
Yes.
when they
I didn't
when
get
they're,
all of that, but
when
yes.
when they're not at fault.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw in the lack of diversity just because it's not there. I mean, I understand this the time
The
period.
70s in America in that particular town was probably still very segregated.
Yeah.
It's still been like a time where people in the North are boycotting and rioting or whatever, protesting against fucking integrated busing
Yeah.
for kids. So, no, it wasn't surprising that they would still be in a very incredibly white town that they live in. But, no, that's still ugly for me.
Yeah, it's
too.
still an ugly. It's if I don't see anyone of color on the main cast, it may be an ugly.
Yeah, the crazy thing is you really don't see... I didn't think I noticed any people of color in Vietnam.
Except for the fucking
except for the
Vietnam.
Vietnamese.
The Vietnamese, yeah.
No,
That's
no,
different.
what I'm saying is on the American side, which is
Oh,
where...
yeah.
And we sent all of them.
No, I
So I don't understand that.
The way you put that, like, oh my god, that's so fucking true. But,
It is.
but no, like, I saw a couple of them here and there,
But again,
with not a single speaking line,
No.
and
Yeah.
obviously no
it's
name
all
credits.
it's all extra.
Background shit, yeah.
But there, you could always add the trope. I don't care. You could always add the trope of having the token color friend.
Yeah.
At least that way you give me something.
Oh, they're not gonna bother doing that in the 70s.
Of course not. But so there's that. I agree with everything else that you guys said, and I think that's pretty much it. Unless you have more ugly, Ari.
You covered a bunch of the ugly I was gonna try to get to, but I forgot, and I was just like, oh,
Okay.
can't
Do you have anything else you want to
I
add?
did. I had a bad. I was gonna say, and it was like it's a weird the setup for the film. If this is in the 60s, where these are young kids or young enough adults that they're able to enlist, they're choosing to enlist in the first place. They were and that they weren't just yanked out of high school, like basically the minute they graduated through the draft.
Right.
Like this is a weird. It's weird because it's also going to be 1968. So this is a time where there are protests for sure with regards to drafting, with regard to going to the war in the first place. You know, like it's not viewed necessarily for a lot of people as a positive, especially young men at this time. Like you guys are getting shipped off to war, and so the fact that the entire community seems to be not have a single like concern about them going, despite this is obviously a time that they should be, is a little weird to me. I don't leave that at a bad. Because I think it's like somewhere I read that he wasn't trying to make it, or maybe you mentioned he wasn't trying to make it political. But at the same time, like, how can you not? It's fucking like it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like because that fucking war was 100% political.
Mm-hmm.
Every person who went to it, every person who came back, everybody who had to endure their loved ones. Every decision that was made by Congress or the funding of it, the protest, like it permeated
everything that had to do with it just was political.
You have to have a stance on it,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you're abdicating by not, and then making the fucking movie that you do, and then pretending, oh yeah, it's not political. Like I guess. The realities of war, like if you're living through them, you don't really give a shit with how someone votes or if someone votes at that point. And I understand that being, maybe that's the statement you're trying to make, but you're also showing the before and the after. And that the society that sent them, there's no way that can't have some element involved in your decision making as to what you decide to show.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, I call bullshit on that one.
Okay. I do want to go back real quick. I want to add a bad. There was some really weird camera cuts. One that I called to specifically was when Michael came back. and he was leaving the trailer after Linda showed up, and there was this really weird either camera cut or camera angle, and it threw me off, and I was like, what? That was weird. So
yeah, they did a lot of experimentation.
Yeah, that's a bad. All right, and that's
on to the greats.
On to the greats.
I want to start real quick.
Yes, I actually want you two to go first.
Okay.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Oh, that's your great?
That's my great.
Okay.
Fuck it.
My great is Robert De Niro's bare ass and Bush.
Wait, what?
Yep.
When it happened and Walken finally covered him up, you said thank you. Now it's your great?
No, it's not actually.
You just want to see his flopping dick all around his thigh
I
and
was
everything?
a little disappointed that we didn't see more, honestly. Yeah. No.
Wow.
No,
I'm not disappointed, but I'm surprised we didn't see more.
It was cold out there. I'm just gonna say that that's not my great, actually. I'm still trying to figure out my great. So I think I have one. Babe, do you mind going?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
My grade is the entire first act of this movie is perfect. Hence why I was laughing at both of you, or when both of you said, damn, that first act.
Okay, so please explain.
So, the first act for me hit a lot of beats. Where, what?
Strange says, "Look, laugh my ass off. Lucky for you, Ari, De Niro has a history of loving black women."
There you go. You have a chance.
Yes.
Just pay a bill or two, Bob. It's fine.
We'll think about it.
So this felt like growing up for me. Like there was a point in my life where this was my group of friends.
Okay.
And there were beats that they hit. The singing in the bar.
Yeah.
You're just too good to be true. I was lost in that scene. Like I was in the bar with them, and I was thinking about us at trivia that one day, Disney trivia,
yes.
when they played I'll Make a Man Out of You, and our entire table just took over singing that song at the top of our lungs in front of everybody.
And we got an ovation.
The rushing to the wedding with your stupid half-drunk friends while the parents are struggling.
What do you mean half-drunk? They were shit-faced.
Yeah.
They were all shit.
It reminded me of our wedding morning.
We weren't shit-faced your wedding morning.
No, but we were fools. And it's just, it hit all the beats, and it got, and then you have the wedding, and it's beautiful, and it's fun. They have a great dance number in it. It's just a really well done scene.
And I did say I miss y'all's wedding.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And then the Green Beret walks in, and the Green Beret is really this harbinger of doom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's coming.
Yeah.
And they don't get it. They're too drunk to get it. They're too young to get it. They don't understand. Yeah. But the Green Beret is there, and he says one line entire time. Yeah. Fuck it. And it's like...
But he walks in,
he said so much.
But he walks in, he doesn't say anything. He is this ominous presence because nobody knows him.
Yeah.
He doesn't acknowledge anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he does sit at the bar, the guys decide to buy him a drink because they're getting ready to get enlisted.
To build up their karma, because this is how they expect to get treated when they
says,
get
I
home.
got shit-faced my bachelor party and had to go see Juice early in the morning. Damn you, Matt and Ari and Nick and David.
From what I heard, Jade was very happy that we got you drunk, so I have no apologies.
And to be fair, you looked very crisp for your wedding, so you're welcome.
You absolutely.
But yeah, so the Green Beret comes in. They offer him they get him a drink in camaraderie because they're getting ready to get shipped off, and he's quiet. He's stone faced the entire time. And when they do give him the drink, and they do cheers, he's just like, fuck it. And De Niro and the guys are De Niro specifically is confused because he's already drunk, and he's confused with Linda, but he's excited to go to war. And he's like, wait, what do you mean fuck it? Fuck what? He's like, fuck who? Not fuck what? Fuck who?
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's being talked shit to, but it's that's why fuck it was my great.
No.
But I do agree with, I do like and runner up the entire first act.
Yeah, and then we hit the hunting scene, which was just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing was great. And then they bring the buck home, and they get into that piano. And they sit at the bar, and it's the end of their weekend. They're about to go to Vietnam. Their childhood, their youth, is about to end. And this guy just starts playing this ballad on the piano.
And it's beautiful.
And everyone's quiet and realizing what's happening. And I didn't want to... And I felt myself inside going, don't let it happen. Don't go. Don't let this end. Hold on to it. And I was obliterated when that scene ended. And I realized, oh, they're still going to Vietnam.
Yeah.
It obliterated me. The movie from start to the piano is perfect to me.
Okay.
It's beautiful. That's my grade.
Okay.
I just want to add a couple more things. One more bad is the weird decision to end it on God Bless America.
Okay, so
I read something about that too, and the idea was that like it was criticized at the time.
Yes.
Because like it kind of like steps on the movie's point, unless you're like trying to say the movie didn't have a point.
But I don't think it does.
That's the problem. Like, does the movie have a point, or does it not? Does it have a point and the song steps on it?
But
the
song itself steps on the point, but the way they sing it drives the point home.
Well, and so I feel like, It was them trying to figure out, like, and maybe you just can confirm this or whatever, because I didn't really read the full, like, clip out of it on Wikipedia, that the director, it felt like they needed something to end this, because their golden boy was gone, and he was not coming back. And I don't know, really, to what extent that everybody there knows what happened to him, how much Michael has shared with them.
Yeah.
But they just know that he's gone. That Michael went to go get him, and he couldn't bring him back, and he's dead. And so, like, and it's just this flatness. Like, everyone's, like, just numb and heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, a lot of times, like, I mean, we've all been to funerals, and oftentimes, at least in my experience, you are talking. You're trying to do anything to avoid the silence that comes with that.
Yeah, that whole sequence once they walk into the bar is very uncomfortable and awkward.
Yes, and I know that's unfair point because they are awkward and uncomfortable because they just left this really beloved person's funeral and they don't know what to do without him. He was their leader. Everyone was in a holding pattern waiting for him to get back. It was almost easier when they believed that he died out there because that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they thought that someone could actually bring him home, like he's alive and he's going to make it back, that was like kind of just like sucks all the air out of everybody when he doesn't.
Yeah.
And so the decision to end it on a song is kind of like their way of trying to like heal, because it's not until after that they really have any honest conversation that starts to feel like they're moving on. But it's still kind of like, but why God Bless America? You're not trying to make this political, and then you choose a fucking like patriotic hymn to sing.
Well, and it's sung in a very ironic, flat, dull tone.
Well, I didn't think it was ironic, because I remember noticing all the men singing it, because at some point, like, John is humming it, and he starts singing it, and then he starts humming it or whatever, because he doesn't remember all the words of like going into it, and everyone can hear him, and then they just kind of pick it up with him, and you can hear Linda singing, and this is when Meryl Streep is awesome. Because when they're showing that scene, it's just one fucking camera looking at them.
Yes.
And you watch them and their responses, and you are there. You watch how each individual character is dealing with that grief. Yeah. And you watch Linda at some point, her voice is wavering. She stops singing at some point while everyone else is singing. You only hear men singing for a while.
Yeah, okay.
And even though Angela's there, you don't really hear her voice, which is more or less indicative of her character in general.
Yeah.
And she's in the background, whereas Meryl Streep is more in the foreground. And she's blonde and she stands out a little bit more. But then at some point she starts to join back in with everybody else. Because it's kind of that moment of grief overwhelmed her, and then she's now trying to find strength with the fellowship of everyone around her. And that's kind of what it was. I know it's supposed to be more about fellowship. But why did you choose God Bless America in the first fucking place?
No, I honestly, because I saw...
I understand I was a soldier, but yeah, okay. But...
You've had something to say, so I'm going to let you go.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so
but I do have a point to that.
Okay, so, from Wiki, the final scene in which all the main characters gather and sing God Bless America became a subject of heated debate among critics when the film was released. It raised the question of whether this conclusion was meant ironically or not, as a critique of patriotism or a paean to it. Cimino later spoke of his intentions for the scene. The ending is really not meant to be so much a statement of patriotism, but a statement of communion. When people are in trouble, as they are when they're very troubled or sick inside, spiritually very sick, they need sometimes to do something together. In this case, it's make a sound. And they sing that song because it's a song that every American child knows by heart. That's a lie. Because because you're taught it in school. I was never taught God Bless America.
I was.
In the 70s, you might have been.
Maybe in the 70s.
And in white towns.
Okay, well, I learned America the Beautiful, but I never learned God Bless America. I learned America the Beautiful. I never learned God Bless America.
I learned God Bless America because I was raised in a Christian Catholic town.
Yeah,
okay. So everybody knows the words of God Bless America, and so it's a communal sound. And they begin to sing the one song they all know from grade school on, and you never...
Yeah, strange was not that shit either. But they're also
so it might be a Caucasian thing.
Yeah, it's a Caucasian thing. And you never forget those words as long as you live. And so they sing. The one song they happen to know happens to be God Bless America, and it reunites them as a family. It becomes a family communion. Instead of a Last Supper, it becomes a first breakfast, if you will, of a new family. It is a breakfast that it is a breakfast that they're eating. It's not the Last Supper. It's the first breakfast. End quote.
No, that's fine. I call bullshit.
Well, yeah, because honestly, there's a perfect way to do that. If that's your point, then yes, it sucks. Because that's horrible reasoning and a bad decision. Because honestly, what you should have done was have someone start singing. You're too good to be true.
Yeah.
They sing it twice in the opening.
Yeah.
With everybody, and everyone's vibing with it, and everybody knows it.
Words, yeah.
So why not end it singing the last song you all sang together before you divided?
Well, and I would also say that if you don't want to use that song because it feels inappropriate for after a funeral, then that means that you have to change that song earlier in the film. Make it a different song instead. Especially because when that song came out, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You.
But then I wouldn't want to do that either because, God, that opening's so perfect. I don't want to fuck with it at all. I don't want to touch it.
I don't care what the
But regardless, you find a song that everybody knows that brings you that everybody knows brings together in brotherhood that can still be used in a solemn way.
Do what, Diddy?
Well, no, I mean here. So, yeah, okay, fine. It's not appropriate after a funeral, but you could argue that na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye is not appropriate after a funeral. But then the way Remember the Titans does it is fucking perfect.
No, but the point is that you would pick a song, because the song choice doesn't really fucking matter. You can find another song earlier on in the movie that you want the characters to be connected to, that would make sense that they know it, that they make sense that they would have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then have them singing it later on.
Yeah.
And it still mean whatever you need it to mean earlier on as well as later. Yeah. And it takes a different meaning because now it's slower and it's sadder or whatever. But the idea is that it's still something that connects them. Yeah. So you just need to do a sound. You chose That Was America because as the people of color in the conversation have expressed, Didn't no one teach us that to teach us shit. So your idea, like, everyone knows it. Well, not everyone. Only everyone white might know it. But everyone in this town might know it.
Right.
But not everyone knows it.
Yeah.
You knew it, which is just one more reason why this is problematic.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that's one of the things. What I will say, though, actually, my great, I'm not sure which one I like more, is either, and one's funny and one's absolutely not. It's, Mom.
Mom beating the hell out of the son.
Yeah, no, yeah. What the fuck are you doing over here? Shitting around with your friends. Get your ass over there. A paddle in hand.
Excellent.
And actually swings at De Niro.
No, yeah. Like, where's your scarf? It's cold out here. Get
I'm
your
not
scarf.
wearing a scarf with a tuxedo,
Get your
Mom.
scarf. It's cold. Get your ducks. No, that's one. But the other one, actually, oh my god. Oh my god. No, I've never watched this movie again because of it. It's the last scene with Michael and Nick.
Oh God, yeah.
That's honest to God probably actually my favorite scene in the whole fucking movie. And I was actually I was hopeful. I thought there's a chance he might bring him home. When he finally reaches him, he's tearing up. It's like you see Nick's Christopher Walken's character tearing up. He's starting to remember, right? And so. Yes, that's all we want. All Michael, everyone in the town wants is for Nick to come home. And when he shoots himself, like, what? I audibly like gasped or groaned or whatever because I was actually surprised and so fucking disappointed.
Oh, and De Niro's reaction.
And De Niro's reaction just drives that point home further. And of course, Walken's performance when he dies. Like, it isn't just like, oh, we're gonna, there's like, brain spotted everywhere, our eyes are rolling back, that sort of thing. Like, it's just, that whole interaction with them. When Nick, or Michael finally finds him, finally buys into the game, and is sitting down across the table from him. And you can feel the suspense, just like when they were in that fucking cage the first time. Mm-hmm. And that is the issue, was that Nick never made it back out of that cage. Michael did. Michael knew what he needed to do in order to get out. He's the one who was he was the one who unfortunately told Nick to do it. And he knew he had to in order to survive. The problem was Nick never stopped doing it. It's almost like he kept doing it waiting for Michael to be there because he feels like he never should have survived in the first place. Because, just for whatever reason. And like, so, he's finally there, that one shot is finally there waiting for him, for Michael to witness. Mm-hmm. And it's just,
It's so heartbreaking.
It is. It really fucking is.
It is seriously the last, I think it's the only false hope in this movie.
There's a few false hopes.
But it is definitely the last false hope.
But that scene in general has a few false hopes too.
Yeah.
Like, I was just thinking about that, like how close it is to a wrestling match, because you have your shine, you have your heat, you have all that, and then you have the ultimate false finish when he pulls the gun up to his head and De Niro grabs his wrist and goes, no, come home with me. Yeah. And you see Walken's face start to break, and you're like, oh my god, here it comes. He's finally gonna get it. He's gonna snap out of it. Here we go.
And then he pulls his hand.
One shot, bang. What?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's beautifully built.
No, yeah.
Beautifully executed.
That part by itself is probably the best scene in the entire fucking movie.
Yes.
To me. And also because it's so well done by the fucking actors who are doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm...
Alright, so out of 10.
7.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, no.
All right. Behind the scenes stuff.
It's the behind the scenes stuff that really kind of like tanked it for me. It's the inconsistencies with regards like to what is the story that we're trying to tell. The story you tell is compelling and it's suspenseful and it's like engaging and it's dramatic, but and dramatic. But at the same time, it's also like, but what story are you trying? What narrative are you trying to tell? And it's fine if you're not trying to tell one, but the problem is you're not even consistent with that because it still keeps bleeding through. So you gotta pick a lane here. And then the other problematic, ugly shit that's happening within it. I want to give it a 7, but I don't feel like that is honestly fair to the film, because I think there's still a lot of good things with it, but based on my rating scale, I can't give it any higher than a 7.5. I don't feel 7.25 is honestly giving it credit either, so I gotta stop at 7.5.
Okay.
Even though that feels a little high.
Okay. Just
8.
All right. I am at a 9.
Okay.
So 1724.5 divided by 3, so 8.1, which I believe is exactly where IMDb lands.
Yeah. So
we do that a lot, by the way.
So Rotten Tomatoes actually gave this movie, I think they
86%.
86%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, I was leaning to 8.5, but everything that Ari says kind of pushes it back for me.
So whenever I rate movies, I have a very similar rating scale-ish. Kind of.
Okay.
But I don't take into account the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Okay.
I am watching the film. And this film is what I'm judging.
Okay.
So I don't take into account if it had protests against it or...
That's not entirely true.
Yeah, last week.
When we watched Fucking the Faculty, you were super hard on Harvey
That's
Weinstein.
different.
That's
different.
Is it?
Yes, that's different.
Why is that?
Well, because here they're going for authenticity and may have pushed a couple borders in regards to the treatment of animals or things like that.
And people.
What Weinstein was doing was predatory.
Yeah, I understand that. But
this isn't. I don't see this as predatory.
No, but we do understand that there is some element of like control verging on definitely problematic.
Problematic, sure.
And so, what was the word I used? Boundaries. The lack of boundaries that this person who's creating this film seems to have. And whether you want to list that as being problematic or not problematic, predatory or not, I feel like I don't know that it's not. I don't know that it is. But the fact that this is a kind of a theme for him, granted, it was successful in one area and absolutely not in another. So we'll never know how much more or worse it could have been or better or whatever. But the reality is it still has an impact on the actors and the audience. And so I understand maybe the intent is not the same for you, but the outcome still can be.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I think you should consider this not being not the same, but it's definitely not
okay.
different.
I am gonna hold my 9.
Okay.
I will take what you're saying into account because I still think this is a 9 out of 10 film.
Okay.
Even with everything.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And again, the fact that it's a perfect first act when that's a lot of people blase over that part nowadays. Like, okay, here's this guy, here's this guy, here's this guy, and here's some exposition to tell you what's going on. Now, let's get to the action. That's kind of how storytelling is nowadays, whereas this one really, at least for me, immersed me into what is happening.
Oh, no, I was immersed as well. Don't get me wrong.
So I'm going to hold it my 9, but I will take that into account. But again, we landed right where IMDb was again. So IMDb is a pretty good rating system, from what I can tell. But still listen to us because we need more viewers.
I was going to add, actually, with regards to, I rank it a naked De Niro out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh.
Every week I'm looking forward to Strangers out of 10.
Bear ass and Bush out.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I was going to say was, one of the reasons why when I make ratings on movies, and I do consider to a certain extent the behind the scenes, and you know all the behind the scenes. There's probably some super problematic shit that is happening behind the scenes in fantastic movies that I am not aware about, so I can't consider it. And then there's other stuff that I am aware of, and the film still kind of speaks for itself, even with the problematic shit. But sometimes it's just enough because it's flavoring the decision making that I see on screen. It's not because I heard this person is a predator or whatever, and so now I don't like anything that they do, and it has nothing to do with whatever the performance is on screen. But if it's I'm a predator, and so I'm making predatory decisions in my characters on screen.
Which is what Weinstein was doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or I have issues with boundaries, so I'm fucking showing issues with my characters on boundaries and the way in which the film is being made. Then the behind the scenes shit absolutely has an effect.
Okay, no, I see that.
So.
I'm still holding up my knife.
No, you can. That's fine.
It's a super good movie. Now that being said, you also have how often am I going to watch this played in your scale?
Yes.
I cannot play that into my scale.
Okay.
I know of 10 out of 10 movies that I will never watch again.
Well, that's why like a lot of movies that the higher they get, it's like it's this weird inverted scale for me.
Yeah, 7 to 8 or 7 to 8.5 is like that sweet spot of I can watch this anytime because it's easy. I don't have to think too much, and it's good.
7 is usually where I start to get into the realm of like I'm never gonna watch this movie again.
Okay.
7.5 is I could probably sit down and watch this film, which is why I feel like this is a little high for this film for me because I'm never watching this shit again. But then 8 is I can rewatch this movie easily without a problem. 9 is I can probably rewatch this movie easily without a problem. I don't know why it somehow gets worse the higher it gets. It's almost as if the idea is that like it's perfect, so if I watch it more, I'm gonna somehow find more things.
You're gonna ruin the experience.
Exactly.
That's what.
Not only that, but perfect movies usually have a strong message to them, and they're not easy to go through.
That's the other part of it too. Is that a lot of times those films are like, oh yeah, Oppenheimer, I gotta get that at 9. I've never watched that shit.
Except for Godzilla minus 1.
Well, even that is rough.
It's dicier.
Yeah.
The higher the ranking goes, because a lot of times they are being more real or hitting messages that you like. They're not gonna find like the lighthearted comedy romps at 9 or 10. They usually have some other message going on for most of us. That's why we enjoy the film. But the problem is, it's also kind of real, and we don't necessarily go to movies for real.
Train to Busan is a 10 for me.
Oh,
yeah.
And I'm crying at the end of that movie every time.
No, yeah. But that's one of those few films that I probably could sit through and watch again a few times. And we have. We've charged a friend.
Yeah. At least a couple times a year.
And apparently the third one's coming out, but we won't watch the sequel because the first one's so goddamn perfect, we don't want anyone to fuck it up.
Exactly. So,
agreed.
But yeah. I think there are a couple comments we missed before we wrap up.
Yeah, so before we start wrapping up here, Straight said I wasn't taught that shit. This country sucks. I was gone. What are we talking about? I rank it a naked dinner out of 10. No, I think we pretty much hit everything.
Due to me changing my scale with jokes, it's fucked. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to change my system.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so we're gonna have one troll rating every Wednesday.
We gotta have a troll rating.
Which means, Strange, you have to come and at least watch one movie with us at some point.
If you can get a day off.
Yeah, just call off. Or we'll watch a movie on a day or you're off, just let us know.
Yeah, so, own it. Rent it, stream it, don't bother.
If you're a collector, it's a must-have. It's a must-have. If you are passionate about film and you are a collector of film, I believe you have to have this in your collection. Do you have to watch it all the time? No, but I think you should have it. But for the casual moviegoer, watch it. Stream it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's on Netflix right now. It's free, so.
I concur in that sense because you want to have a physical library. That way, when you have people over, it's one of those things where people start looking at what you have, and then they're like, oh, I've never seen this. Like, what is this? And then it's like, oh, you haven't.
I know exactly what film it has to be, and I apologize to Man and Juice now.
But Ari will love me for it. That's Velocipaster.
Yeah. Or Sharknado too.
No.
I'm pretty sure it's Velocipaster.
So I'm pretty sure it's actually on a wheel. So when it's rolled, we will make sure that you're coming.
I was actually saving it for Halloween again, but I can put it on there.
No. All right. So that being said, everyone hit.
I was gonna say that I'm saying streaming it, and as much as I kind of understand your point, and I ordinarily would agree with you on buying it, I'm still super not sure that I think this film
deserves it.
Yeah, and the problem is, it has nothing to do with the acting or the performances, or even necessarily the story that's being told. It's missing too much of the experience of humanity. I don't know how to describe it. basically, I feel like there are a lot of Vietnam War movies that you could own before this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would watch Platoon over this one.
And this one, if I'm gonna give it any credence, it's not for its depiction of the war; it's its depiction of
the relationships.
No, it's the PTSD of veterans when they come back from combat. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but I feel like they do a decent job of showing that feeling of not fitting, of there being that you never really come home.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
And if I was gonna say yes, you should own it, it's for that reason and the acting performances alone. I'm still not sure I'm ready to give it that much credit, though. I would just say, stream it for sure. I think it is still worth a watch, but whether it's worth spending the money to find a copy of it somewhere on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, I'm not sure that I'm there for it yet.
Okay.
Come on, Telly.
Alright, so with that being said, are we ready to move on?
Yes.
I think we're about ready to move on. Yes. So are we ready to spin the wheel?
Yes. I would hope so, because God, I have been waiting for 2 weeks.
Please tell me that you have a palate cleanser for us.
We will find out, I hope.
Schindler's List.
Is that on my wheel?
I don't know, is it?
I think it is.
Oh dear God.
Lamageddon.
If we go, hold on. If we go Sharknado, Deer Hunter, Schindler's List.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this.
No, I would know if it was. It's not. All right, here we go.
All right.
Wheel of Morality.
Turn.
Tell us the lessons that we should learn. Oh, okay.
Please be palate.
It is a palate cleanser.
It is a palate cleanser.
Power Rangers.
No, I wish. No, it's actually a movie I've been waiting to see for.
Okay.
God, 20 years.
Ooh. Early 2000s.
No, I haven't seen this. No, I lie. I haven't seen this movie in 30 years.
Oh God.
Oh, 90s.
We are traveling back to medieval times to Sherwood Forest.
Oh.
We are watching Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes!
There it is.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
God.
Get your Bryan Adams. Is it Bryan?
Yes.
Get your Bryan Adams albums ready, because we are going to be playing whatever song that is at the end of the movie. I don't know.
Practice your best, Alan Rickman.
Everything I do for you.
There it is. Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years, Jesus.
I haven't seen it in years either.
I haven't seen it this year.
Well, it's definitely a palate cleanser, but me and Ari go fight. All right,
yeah, so no, I haven't seen that movie this year. I probably watch it at least once a year, though.
Yeah, I have not seen it in years. So, and that's that was one of the main reasons I put it on my list, because I will watch. Well, I've never I don't think I've seen it on any streaming, but if I watch a Robin Hood movie, I'm always watching Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah,
I love that stupid movie.
I haven't watched. We tried watching it. I think when we had COVID last year or a couple years ago, and both of us looked at each other like, I don't think we can do this anymore.
That is a shame, because I actually love that Mel Brooks movie.
We're
gonna have comparisons, I'm sure.
No, of course, but yeah, next week we are we are putting our tights on.
This is
Thank you, Strange. Yes, thank you.
This is a good one. This is a good palate cleanser.
Yeah, fantastic palate cleanser.
A good reset.
Thank Christ. Thank you, Juice.
You're welcome.
Very nice choice.
So
all right, so Robin Hood.
I'm gonna say right now, we may as well just go ahead and just fucking buy that movie.
Okay, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Starring Alan Rickman, Kevin Costner.
Well, starring Kevin Costner.
Nope, starring Alan Rickman and featuring Kevin Costner.
Morgan Freeman.
Featuring Morgan Freeman.
Oh, actually, nope. Let me retract again. Starring Alan Rickman, starring Morgan Freeman, featuring Kevin Costner.
And Christian Slater.
Yeah, and not a whole lot of hate to Kevin Costner. I actually have a few of his movies on my wheel.
But it's Alan Rickman.
But this movie, we gotta talk.
I don't think we're gonna fight as much as you think we're going to.
No, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna make a point on why I don't like this movie. You're gonna go, yes, that's why it's amazing. That's what it's gonna be next week.
That actually sounds probably accurate. Yeah, you're right.
All right, so we will go over that next week. And it's a shorter one, so
Yeah.
So no more 3 hour.
So real quick, Ari, when are you gonna be out of town?
Oh fuck!
Next week.
God.
Fuck.
Okay,
So instead.
So that's for next time, not next week.
Yes, but next week that does not mean we will not have Side Chick Wednesday.
That's right. We're gonna figure something out.
So don't go anywhere. We might have some surprises for you while Ari's out of town next week.
That doesn't sound
when it's
wrong
really
at all.
Me and the Side Chick one-on-one.
Oh shit.
That doesn't sound dirty at all. Gotcha.
I completely intended it to be.
Okay, so make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which probably means Matt is wrong.
Thank you, Strange.
Thanks, Strange.
Oh my god.
All right, so we're gonna call it there. Like, share, subscribe. We had up to 20 viewers on this video, so thanks for jumping in. Like, share, subscribe. We do this every Wednesday. We have Juice over, and we have Side Chick Wednesday, so stick around. 90% of the time it is the wheel. Next week it will not be, as Ari will be out of town. But who knows? Maybe me and Juice will watch something on the fucking fly and do our own little one-on-one
Yeah,
review.
maybe.
Okay, Ari doesn't want us to do that, so we'll find something else to do. So for No Collar Entertainment, this is Matt.
Here I am.
This is Juice.
We're out.
Bye.
War is bad.
It was a really Side Chick Wednesday without the wife.
it is even more of a Side Chick Wednesday without the wife.
Strange. We gotta talk about your morals. Love you guys. Bye.
Or lack thereof.